Hi. I brought some flowers for the house.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. After you're done with that, I'm gonna get a mic on you.
My name is Jonah Miller, born and raised in New York. I'm the chef owner of Huertas. Huertas means orchard or small garden. I think I'm more or less ready. I know where things are here. So ingredients are important. So like typically bread and tomatoes, water, lots of olive oil, a little bit of raw garlic. So I don't like raw onion because I think it becomes too sharp. So we're actually gonna caramelize the onions. So I'm gonna grab a couple pans and pots to start that process. So we're gonna boil a bit of water for the eggs. And then for the onions, get a pan going. So just slicing these relatively thinly. All right, so 4, 5, 6 eggs. Our onions are going. The eggs are going. They take a bit of time. Now to the heart of the dish, the tomatoes and the bread. So we're gonna use a combination of puree and some whole peeled tomatoes. So we're gonna take an old loaf of bread. At home, I cook mostly Italian and Spanish at work, but there's also a lot of overlap, which I think is tricky because when you're a Spanish restaurant, you don't want to be confused for being Italian. Like if you throw basil on something, automatically it feels Italian. But they have basil in Spain too. There's a lot of similar things. Not much good pasta though. Time for tomatoes. We're gonna go with the entire can. Generally speaking, if you can have one type of tomato product in your pantry, Mutti peeled tomatoes, the best and most versatile for making pasta sauce, for soup. And we'll start with half of the puree, save the other half and see how the soup comes out once we've blended it. 1 clove of garlic has a surprising impact, especially when it's raw. Whenever I see a young cook add a ton of garlic into something. I told them when I was a young cook, when I was at Chanterelle, when I was 14, one of my tasks every day was to clean 10 pounds of squid. And for the 10 pounds, the recipe called for 1 clove of garlic minced, which I always thought was like bonkers, like this 1 clove, 10 pounds. But the one day that I forgot it, David, the chef, tasted it. It's like, I think you forgot the garlic. So from then on, I knew the impact of a clove of garlic. So we're gonna add a bit more oil. Kind of tuck it in a corner so that we can add this garlic right in that spot and toast a little bit. You could add now also some herbs. I would add, you don't want to add too much of anything because you want to keep it nice and red. I'm going to add a little bit of oregano. All right. So onions are pretty deeply caramelized. The garlic looks almost entirely raw. Salt going in here. The same token, add some salt to the tomatoes as well. All right. I grew up eating lots of pasta, so canned tomato is one of the things that I always have in my pantry, because ultimately, like, if you're making a sauce, the main ingredient or in the soup is the tomatoes. Tomatoes are good to begin with. It makes your work a lot easier. So we're just going to actually deglaze with tap water and add that right in, because whatever leftover flavor is in the pan will go right into the soup. So there's definitely some good flavor that we're adding. And now we're going to add a really good glug of olive oil. So what we're looking for is that the bread is completely submerged. So we're going to let this meld and hang out for about a half an hour. If you had longer, you could put it in the fridge overnight. It's wild. I might have to take a private moment here to see. All right, it's pretty full. Our nanny's always horrified that I like to leave meat just uncovered and open in the fridge, but it's a much better way to hold it than like wrapped in a saran wrap, and also to help get a nice sear. Tonight, Nina has gymnastics later. She's 3. She loves to cook, but hates to eat. Likes all the kid foods. I don't know where I went wrong. She eats dinner usually before us, and again, kid food, so buttered pasta, hot dogs, chicken nuggets, and hopefully when we get over that hurdle, we'll be in a good spot. Nina's room. She was an amazing sleeper for 3 years, and now she comes into bed with us every night, which isn't great. And she has a little kitchen of herself. This is actually how I started cooking. My cousin lived across town, had one of these little kitchens. My parents, I don't remember this, but tell stories of me sort of like tearing down their hallway and knocking my cousin over to go cook in her kitchen. I've always been really connected to it. And yeah, it's always been at the forefront of my mind, cooking. So we're gonna keep things fairly large. Maybe just quarter the eggs. And then the final garnish, which we haven't taken out yet, is our jamon. And we have some short slices here, which ultimately will just tear a little bit. The right size for single bites with the soup. We cooked the onions, but everything else is raw. And so these tomatoes aren't cooked at all. Perception that for a canned product, you want to like maybe just stew it briefly to get sort of whatever kind of canned flavor that might exist. But I don't really think that you're gonna find any kind of canned flavor. I think that's more of a perception that you don't want to eat something straight from a can. While it's not cooking from heat, it is getting sort of tossed and marinated with everything. So to get some life outside of the can before it goes in, but no, we're never cooking them. So here it goes. All right, so again, we are looking for a thick soup. That's not too far off. And make sure it tastes right. It tastes a lot like cream of tomato soup, especially because of the vinegar. It's a little sharper, and definitely because it's chilled, it's more refreshing. But it's unbelievably rich and creamy without any cream. My philosophy of how I like to cook, one I like to cook at home and one at the restaurant, but I think increasingly they do overlap. You know, I don't want anything to ever be super challenging for the guest. The food that hits the plate should look like anybody could do it or like your grandmother could do it. And at home, to be even less fussy. There's something to be said for sort of not a recklessness, but like not forcing yourself to like a standard that you might in a restaurant. All right, I'm gonna grab a tray, and that way we can head out to the balcony and sit down for some Salmorejo. Definitely seems like it's really creamy.